Tough is the only way to describe it. The Grizzlies had it at their fingertips. They were right chance to escape Golden State with a 2-2 series, but things fell apart late. We're going to talk about that and the unfortunate news with Morant coming up on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back, Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host, DeMichael Cole, coming from you tonight, and I'm riding solo without Sean Coleman today. But man, what a game! What a tough game. The Grizzlies, they had it. That's all you could say. They had it right on their fingertips. They were right there. A chance to make it a 2-2 series going back to the FedEx Forum, and it slipped away late. The Grizzlies were either tied or led for all the way up until the final minute. 47.5 seconds left. Steph Curry, 45.7 seconds, I believe it was. Steph Curry goes to the free throw line, makes 2 free throws. That was the first time Golden State led all game, and they never trailed again. But thank you, first and foremost, for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen. Make sure you're subscribing, you comment, and you're listening to whatever platforms that you like to listen to your podcast on. We are everywhere. But today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. So make sure you're checking out prizepicks.com and using that promo code LOCK. Use the promo code NBA, or go to your app store and download the app today. So Prize Picks, it's a daily fantasy app made easy. So the story of this game, I mean, there are a lot of stories from this game for a loss. More than anything, the Grizzlies are now down 3-1. They're in a tough position, but there was a message after the game. Taylor Jenkins, Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones, they all said, look, you can't win all three of them without winning one. So they're going to take it game by game. Next up is game 5. They're focused on trying to get that one win, but man, it's hard not to look at this game as one that slipped away. Get this series in totality. Game 1, the Grizzlies were right there. Now you add on game 4, the Grizzlies are down 3-1. One basket either way in 2 different games. They could be up 3-1. That's how close this series has been. That's how tough this is, not to digest for the fans, but for the players as well. You know, they tried to keep as Jaren Jackson said, not too high, not too low. But he also, he admitted, he was mad after that game. We hardly see, Jaren Jackson as frustrated as he was after that game, but he was very frustrated. And quite frankly, it's very understandable. It was a winnable game, and there was no Morant. So let's touch on that, because at the end of the day, the Grizzlies played, they played well enough to win. Defensively, strong effort. After allowing 142 points, the Warriors shot 60+% from the field in game 3 and just got whatever on line. They had a field day. Taylor Jenkins, shout out to him. Shout out to the Grizzlies coaching staff and the players for making the proper adjustments. And, man, they made things tough on Golden State. Some of those guys did miss some shots. Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Curry did miss some shots early on that you probably expect them to make from time to time. But overall, the defense from the Grizzlies was tight. They were communicating well. There weren't a lot of those, switches where 2 guys go to one player and one guy's left wide open. We saw a lot of that in game. The Grizzlies, from a communication standpoint, they were on cue. The problem came in the last 3.5 minutes. Golden State did not make a field goal in that time, but Golden State had Steph Curry. They were able to get to the free throw line, and they were able to win the game. It's quite that simple. Whereas when Golden State ramped up its pressure, and this is what I thought even coming into this game, I felt that the Grizzlies had a good chance of winning that game. Who the Grizzlies gonna go to? Who is gonna be the guy for Memphis when it comes down to it? In the end, that answer there wasn't one. There wasn't one. Jaren Jackson Jr. got the ball 2 times against Draymond Green. Didn't finish. Dylan Brooks took some shots, in that last minute as well. Didn't finish. But at the end of the day, that's where they missed Ja Morant the most. You periodically missed him throughout the game, but they survived all the way up until that last 3 minutes where you think back all this season long where Ja Morant has his phone up to his ear and he's saying call 12. The Grizzlies couldn't call 12 this time. Ja Morant sat on the bench, in his with his hoodie on, and he was helpless. There was not much he could do from the bench. But speaking of Ja Morant, since we're on the topic, being in school, I was there at shoot around, and I've been here all week long, as these last couple games, just seeing how Ja Morant is progressing, and they listed him as doubtful before game 4. But as someone who was there, I never thought there was a chance he was going to play. For one, he has a very noticeable limp. Ja Morant is not, walking very good. And I guess the doubtful listing, because, you hear the joke, around Ja and his teammates like to say, he heals like Wolverine. Maybe they thought a good night rest and, he would feel a lot better. And there was a chance, the slightest of possibilities. But here's where the concern comes in, I think. We looked at Taylor Jenkins before the game, and he mentioned the MRI. He said that, there was an MRI taken. He did not want to reveal the results. MRI on Ja Morant's status. After that MRI, he said that, after he didn't reveal the results of that MRI, he said that the Grizzlies, basically were going to get the team doctors involved and they would go from there, which basically sounds like a second opinion. You get an MRI, the MRI says one thing, okay, now let's see what the team doctors say, and let's go from there. I don't know how you take that as a good sign, because if you get the MRI and you see it's really good news, then why not share the good news? Oh, now granted, I guess the rebuttal to that would be that, Taylor Jenkins in this entire playoff series, he has been, very sheltered in terms of rotational things. He's been very sheltered about who's going to be the starting center, Steven Adams, Xavier Tillman, or how many minutes is this guy going to play? How many minutes is that guy going to play? Is this guy expected to be in the rotation today? He's been very sheltered with that information. And that was the same way with Ja leading up to, him being out for the game. So you could say that, but as I saw Ja walking, it's hard. It'll be heartfelt for me to say he's going to be back. So now it's about, I think you have to approach assuming Ja Morant does not play. That's where it is right now. Of course, there's going to be hope there, but there's just not a lot of time in between these games. There aren't 2-3 days off in between games anymore. The Grizzlies will get right back to it tomorrow. And then if there's a game 6, you get 1 day off in between, then you're right back to it, traveling out to San Francisco. So it's just not a lot of time off right now. And with that being said, there's not a lot of time for Ja Morant to get ready. And I think that matters in this discussion. You just don't have a lot of time, so you just can't plan on having him in this series. But let me tell you something you can, make plans on, and that's Prize Picks. See, NBA fans, you're looking for a daily fantasy option out there. Look, Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. one thing I personally love about Prize Picks, so you can pick 2 to 5 and pick an over and under. And on the projections, you can win up to 10 times as many on any entry. So Prize Picks, it's available in the App Store, it's available in Google Play, and you can make Prize Picks wager on things like rebounds, points scored, steals, all of that, blocks. And it's not just NBA. What about the MLB? You can do the same thing for home runs, for hits, and for walks with MLB. So Prize Picks has an exclusive offer for all the users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. That's it. Just a single point. All it needs is a free throw. So all you need to do is use the code NBA. So that's right. This is an exclusive offer to Locked On NBA fans. Use the promo code NBA to take advantage of that exclusive offer. And another exclusive offer that we have for you here on Locked On Grizzlies is Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens, where all the healthy people out there? Because one thing I've added to my rotation, as I try to fix up my health, is Athletic Greens. And the thing about Athletic Greens is you don't have to take all those vitamins and supplements when you have Athletic Greens. One scoop of Athletic Greens is all you need, and it gets you right. I mean, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics to help you get your day right. This is a friendly option as well. It's costing you less than $3 per day. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews and is recommended not just by myself, a professional journalist, but by professional athletes too. So a subscription with Athletic Greens comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which we know comes in handy most during those months, but you can take advantage of it as the seasons get a little bit warmer too. So Athletic Greens, take advantage of that as well. So yeah, we're on our second segment. We're going to talk about Dillon Brooks. The thing about Dillon Brooks is he's one of those players, you take the good with the bad. You just hope the good outweighs the bad. Well, in this series so far, the bad, whether it's shooting, whether it's, being suspended for a game, it has far outweighed the good, which is usually his D. Dillon Brooks had a bad game offensively in this game. And a lot of points to touch on it, because we're not just going to talk about Dillon Brooks' game, but we're going to talk about, what his teammates thought, what his coaches thought, and even more, because there's a lot to dissect here. First, let's start with his game. Dillon Brooks was 5 for 19. Dillon Brooks was 5 for 19, and may I add, he was 4 of 18 until, a last-second three-point heave, when time was, as the buzzer sounded at the end of the game, where there was no anything. But tough, rough shooting night. He made a couple big shots in the fourth quarter. I believe at one point he was 2 of 12, maybe 2 of 13. It was a rough go for Dillon Brooks. He ended up being number one trending topic on Twitter last night, simply because of that. He was the guy who, basically took the fall in this game. A lot of fans questioned his shots. A lot of people questioned his final shot. His final shot, his second to last shot, I believe it was, with 53 seconds left. He got the ball. He got a 3-point shot. Tyus Jones passed it to him, and he let it go, and it did not go in. That was the last time the Grizzlies led. It's 53 seconds left. Dillon Brooks shot a 3-pointer. Golden State went up the next possession, got free throws from Steph Curry, and that was it. So he's the fight. But before we, keep going, I mean, Desmond Bane dealing with the back injury. I did spot him sporting some sort of back pad, some back protection he was wearing during halftime, just to show you that he's not 100% right now. Desmond Bane, that is. section during halftime as he came back to the court. So there's that and his struggles. There's Brandon Clark, who was a monster last series, basically disappearing. And there's a lot to take away before you just solely put this on Dillon Brooks. Kyle Anderson, for as great as he was, he struggled at the free throw line. I'm looking at the stat sheet now. Kyle Anderson was great. 17 points, 7 of 8 shooting overall, 2 of 7 from the free throw line. 2 of 7 from the free throw line. I mean, you look at Kyle Anderson free throws alone. He makes a couple more of those free throws, the result is different. So there are a lot of things that you can pick apart in this game, but everyone wants to focus on Dillon Brooks because, the 5 of 19 shooting, and quite frankly, the confidence just he had to keep shooting despite missing so many. Well, that confidence comes from the team. Tyus Jones, after the game, I asked these questions. Tyus Jones basically said the Grizzlies have a free-flowing offense. That's why, they led the league in transition points and things like that. So you take the good with the bad. A lot of these guys have ultimate green lights. That's why Dillon Brooks is pulling up in the transition. We saw a couple times in game 4, Zaire Williams. He's a rookie, but he even has the green light to pull up in transition like he did and pull up for a floater in transition like he did and make those type of plays. And Dillon Brooks does too. So a lot of these guys have the green light in transition to get a favorable shot and let it go. Don't think twice. That is something that is a part of this offense. The downside to that is there's probably a reason why we see them struggling half court a lot, because they try to get out in transition and take advantage of those scoring opportunities as much as possible. But after the game, Tyus Jones, Kyle Anderson, Taylor Jenkins, they all rallied around Dillon Brooks. And what I got from it is segment I've seen Grizzlies fans talk about the shots that were being taken by Dillon Brooks. His teammates kind of went to bat for him. So I asked Kyle Anderson after the game. I said, what was your message to Dillon Brooks when he was struggling from the field? And these are his exact words. He said, "We live and die with him taking and making shots. We have confidence in him that he's going to knock down. He's done this for us all year. You can't get upset at him when the ball doesn't go in for him, because when it's going in for him, we're a really good team. We all just let each other know to keep shooting. We want him to stay confident and keep being aggressive." Those are Kyle Anderson words. That's one of the veterans on this team. He's the one who has a very notable voice on this team. And he's the one who, the players trust, his thoughts. And another thing, here is Taylor Jenkins, the head coach. He was asked, why? Quite frankly, why did he, keep playing Dillon Brooks, who played 39 minutes in this game despite, all the shots he was missing? And he said, I got a lot of trust in him, and I loved what he was doing defensively. He had a big 3. Big 2 late in the game, just ball wasn't bouncing for him the majority of the game, but got a lot of trust in that guy. That's Taylor Jenkins speaking on it. I even followed up after that later to ask Taylor Jenkins another question, a little more direct. Just, how did you feel about Dillon Brooks' shots today? Taylor Jenkins said, he forced a couple, trying to get his groove back. Obviously, he's been off for a couple of days. But when he was playing with force under control, I loved the playmaking that he had. His playmaking was great tonight. So he went out of his way to point out, Dillon Brooks as a playmaker in this game, which I thought was quite interesting because Dillon Brooks is one who has said he wants to, be a better playmaker. And he did have 8 assists. He led the team with 8 assists, but he also led the team with 4 turnovers. So how much of that is really good playmaking is the real question. But here's the other thing I want to say. I want to say this too, because Dillon Brooks takes a lot of slack, and we just saw, his teammates stood up for him. Here's another thing. A lot of fans say, Dillon is struggling. Take him out. Take him out of the game. Take him out of the game. Who are you going to put in the game who is going to make those shots, or who like Dillon Brooks, isn't even afraid to take them and put the team in favorable situations down the stretch. Here's the thing with Dillon Brooks. Yes, you get some iffy shot selection, but he's one of those guys on this team that's a shot creator. He can get to good spots, and evidenced by his 8 assists, he can make things happen when he penetrates. How many guys on this team can do that if you take Dillon Brooks out the game? Ja Morant is already out. So if you take out Dillon Brooks, more than likely Zaire Williams is his replacement. Zaire Williams, for as great as he has been as a rookie, and I am of the opinion that, maybe he should start next season once he gets another summer under his belt and all of that good stuff. As great as Zaire Williams has been, we have not seen much shot creation from, or him being even put in those positions to do that. So you put him in the game, you're bringing in another guy who's going to spot up and shoot. DeAnthony Melton would be another option. Again, another guy we've seen spot up and shoot, maybe take one dribble and shoot the basketball. Desmond Bane would be your usual go-to guy at the guard position. He's hurt right now. Desmond Bane is not healthy. 4 Grizzlies starters scored in double figures. You know which one did not score in double figures? Desmond Bane. 8 points, only 8 shots, 3 of 8 shooting, 2 of 4 from three-point range. He's just not as healthy right now. With that being said, Tyus Jones, he's a table setter. He actually did some great work in that game creating shots for himself, 19 points. But if you take out Dillon Brooks, who's going to create? As we saw when the Warriors ramped up that defense in the last 3 minutes of that game, things got tough for the Grizzlies. And Dillon Brooks, I mean, whether you like it or not, he's one of your best options at creating things. If he makes, he looks really good. If he misses, he looks really bad. But at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of other guys who can create in those situations. So that's why you keep Dillon Brooks in the game. Another day, he's probably going to make them. And, you just live with it. But, that's enough about, Dillon Brooks. One guy I want to talk about as well is Jaren Jackson, who really showed some signs of some nice shot creations from himself, but he showed flashes of a really dominant player in this game. I thought Jaren Jackson was strong. But before we get to Jaren Jackson, I want to talk about BetOnline. See, with BetOnline, this is where you go to get your bets available right now. And I mean, we're talking not just the NBA. We're talking MLB. We're talking combat sports. That means MMA and everything in between. I mean, you never know. BetOnline, that last fight, Canelo Alvarez. How about that? He lost a big upset. A lot of people went to BetOnline and took advantage of that opportunity. So make sure you're doing that as well with BetOnline. Great opportunities for everyone. And it's the best options available out there for this Grizzlies team as well. We were seeing the Grizzlies numbers have been up and down, and so have the Warriors. So make sure you take advantage of BetOnline as well. Some of the best bets, some of the best opportunities out there to take advantage. BetOnline. So Jaren Jackson Jr. in this game, just watching him, I was impressed. For one, I think he brought it on both ends. I mean, the Warriors, they switched a lot. They put him in a lot of positions. He was in positions against Stephen Curry. He had to guard Klay Thompson. He even had to guard his former high school teammate, Jordan Poole. Go check out my story at commercialappeal.com about Jordan Poole and Jaren Jackson as teammates. I wrote about that, and a lot of cool stories inside of there. They were roommates. They used to freestyle music together, and they really taught each other a lot in the game of basketball. So go check that out at commercialappeal.com as well. But Jaren Jackson was put in some tough positions, and he showed some signs of some dominance. His overall numbers in this game, 21 points, 7 of 21 shooting, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. But let me tell you one thing we saw in the press room after the game. Jaren Jackson sat down. He looked at the stat sheet, kind of just like I just looked at the stat sheet, and he shook his head. It was very visible. So he was asked, "So Jaren, why'd you shake your head?" And his response was, he looked at that 0 of 7. Jaren Jackson was 0 of 7 from three-point range in this game. So 7 of 21 shooting. You take away those 7 3-pointers, he was 7 of 14. But he was 0 of 7 from three-point range, and you could just tell that gutted him. That gutted him. It hurt because he was money in this game. Inside, he made some really tough baskets. I think with Otto Porter Jr., the Warriors went to him, and I mean, he was big. I mean, Otto Porter made 4 3-pointers, scored 12 points off the bench. He kind of replaced Jonathan Kuminga, who started the game as well. He was very big for them, but it seemed like Jaren Jackson realized he had a mismatch against Otto Porter. And not only did he attack him once, not only did he attack him twice, he kept going to the well. And I know for a lot of Grizzlies fans out there, that was refreshing to see. Because how many of you, I mean, I know so many Grizzlies fans who have said, Jaren Jackson, just stay aggressive. He'll show those flashes, and then it disappears for a few games. This game, I think we saw some dog in Jaren Jackson Jr. Straight up dog. He led the team in shot attempts, 21 shot attempts, and he got the call late. I mentioned, he got the ISO on the right wing against Draymond Green, and first he misses the shot when he's driving to the basket, and he shoots the short mid-range shot. When the ball rims out, this is what the Grizzlies are down 1 in, I believe, the final 30 seconds of this game. The ball rims out, and, asking Jaren Jackson about that after the game, he just straight up said, look, I just missed it. When an NBA player says that, and this is basically what he said too, is, he got to a spot. That's a shot he takes. It's not like some random shot he was forced to take by Draymond Green. He took a shot that he likes, just missed it. Sometimes it's that simple. Just like Ja Morant in game 1, when he gets that driving layup to the rim around Klay Thompson, he's made it plenty of times. In that situation, just missed it. So it's tough when you look at it like that, but I think there's some encouraging things, from Jaren Jackson Jr. Really want to see how that carries over into this game 5, because he is a mismatch. He's 6'11". He's playing the 4 in these games. And shout out to Steven Adams as well. He's someone I've lobbied for to start once he got back after health and safety protocols, came back in game 3, only played close to 6 minutes of garbage time late in the fourth quarter. In this game, Steven Adams, 10 points, 15 rebounds, 27 minutes. Best number of them all, plus 13. And so I saw some people saying, hey, Taylor Jenkins should have went back with Steven Adams late in the game. He didn't go with Adams, and I know I just feel like Taylor Jenkins kind of second guesses himself on Adams in those type situations. One, he hasn't closed games with the Grizzlies pretty much all season. Brandon Clark has been the closer in this particular game. Even over Brandon Clark, Kyle Anderson was getting the call because of how good he was. But yeah, Steven Adams was really good in his game as well. But Jaren Jackson Jr., 5 block shots, 2 steals, 21 points, did not make a 3-pointer. That itched at him more than anything. How does he build on this? 7 of 21 has to get better. It will get better, just naturally. If he's attacking the rim like that, he doesn't have to settle for 7 3-pointers, I don't think. There were a couple times later in that game after I saw him get to the basket, and we're talking about he shot 8 free throws. So even sometimes he was getting fouled. Draymond Green finished with 5 fouls in this game. Who drew the fifth foul on him? It was Jaren Jackson Jr. when he was driving to the basket aggressively. Now, it was a challenge play, could have went either way, but it was Jackson being aggressive, forcing the issue that put Draymond Green in that situation. And he settled down the stretch. I think Taylor Jenkins thought Jaren Jackson Jr. got fouled on that late three-pointer. He's looking forward to seeing the 2-minute report in that one. But Jaren Jackson Jr. said it himself after the game that maybe he settled, late, knowing that Draymond Green had 5 fouls. But keep an eye out on Jaren Jackson Jr. When we talk more about Game 5 on tomorrow, that's going to be a big part of this conversation is Jaren Jackson, can he build upon this performance? Because that's the best thing you want to see from him at this point. He realized he was dominant in his game, and he kept getting the ball. Will that continue in Game 5? That is a major question as well. But we appreciate you for listening to Locked On Grizzlies. And before you go, do not leave just yet. Make sure you make your second listen Locked On NBA. That's where the Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insights and analysis affecting all 30 NBA teams. But we thank you again for listening to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host, DeMichael Cole. You can follow me on Twitter at DeMichaelC. Sean Coleman will be joined with me tomorrow. We're going to discuss all the good things, all the bad things, and preview what will be the biggest game of the season for the Memphis Grizzlies. Down 3-1, but back at home in the FedEx Forum with an opportunity to keep this series alive. But we appreciate you for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies. Until next time, I'll see you later.